Happy Friday, newsies! It is I, Becca Laurie Hector here, and I have returned for another installment of Neurodiversity Newsstand. Sorry I missed you guys last week. I was feeling like poop, and I needed a week off. I just needed like extra time to myself last week. Some sleeping to do, some reading to do. I was just feeling a little burnt out, and so rather than push myself last week and make myself not feel good, I figured I would lead by example and postpone newsstand. So I hope you didn't miss me too much last week, but I have returned. Here I am with your news from this week. But before I get started, I guess let's chitty chat about some things. So, as you know, I've been working super hard on my course, Self-Defined Living. Unit 1 came out, went amazing. Unit 2 is coming on August 5th, so get yourself registered. And I've been kind of getting to know my sponsors a little bit. I've been working on that. I've got sponsors for Unit 2, so if you need a seat to Unit 2, a scholarship seat, please email me at info@beccalaurie.com. But today's specialness, at the end of today, I always save my crap for the end so I can get you the news first, and then I talk to you about my stuff. And at the wee end of today's episode, I'm going to be sharing one of my Unit 1 sponsors with you guys. So as you know, when they bought their sponsorship packages, some of our really big sponsors are getting the opportunity to be interviewed by me right here on Newsstand, so you guys can get to know them, and they can share their work and the other things that we're doing. So today, at the end of all the news and all of my garbage, I'm going to be splicing in the very first Unit 1 sponsor interview with Cynthia Baseman. So I hope you guys will stick around to watch that and get to know the sponsors that are making it possible for you guys to take self-defined living. So that's that. I'll get to that. As you can see, I'm a little bit, I don't know, I feel like I'm pushing a little bit today. I'm really anxious to be done for today. And I know that's a terrible thing to say, to try and rush through kind of your now moments. Your now moments are so important. But I just need to stop thinking for a little bit. It's been a heavy thought week for me. Lots of planning, creative stuff going on. Also, a lot of meetings going on. So there was a lot of front-facing social stuff, like lots of Zoom meetings, and I had to record a bunch of videos this week for some projects that I'm working on. So I'm feeling socially exhausted in the front here about those things, and I'm hoping for a weekend of just texting with my friends and sticking on my couch and spending some quiet time in the hammock with the dogs and that kind of thing, because I'm feeling like I did a lot of social this week. That's the feeling that I'm getting. It's a different kind of tired for me. I wonder if it's a different kind of tired for you guys when you've done a lot of social in the week, and rather than just doing a lot of your creative stuff or a lot of physical stuff. Can you tell the difference in your tired? I can. And so I'm just curious if you guys can too. So I can definitely tell the difference in my different tireds. I feel like I talk about my tiredness all the time on Newsstand, you guys. I'm so sorry. But it's Fridays. I record on Fridays. So by the time I get here to Friday, I'm like, oh my God, I made it through another week. I'm so tired. But it's a good tired. It's a fulfilling tired. Like I'm feeling successful and tired and fulfilled and tired. And just also like I don't want to go out and have a beer with anybody this weekend. You know what I mean? Like I just don't want to do that stuff this weekend. Pooped. In any case, so that's my life right this week. I don't really have anything else exciting to share. I didn't have anything super stupendous happen. I was very much focused on my work this week, and no, I didn't spend a lot of time online. So actually, all the news stories that I'll be sharing with you guys today, a lot of them I had to reread because I just kind of skimmed them and shared them. And then I had to reread to be able to talk to you guys about them, because it was that kind of week. I didn't really get to spend a lot of time in Newsstand and a lot of time just really reading the articles that I was sharing this week, or with kind of paying attention reading, not skimming reading. So let's get started on the news for this week. We do have some fun stuff to share, some interesting things. Got some books coming out for you guys to be interested in. Yeah. So let's get started. So first, let's get the COVID out of the way, because we can't have a week without having the COVID. And so we got to have at least a COVID article. And this one comes to us in ADD Attitude Magazine. It is coming to us from Stephen Shore, and the title of it is living in uncertain times, coping strategies for autistic adults, right? So he's given us some coping strategies for getting through these uncertain times that we're in right now. And you can take a look at that from ADD Magazine, of course, in the description. Why? Because Becca puts all the things she talks about in the description below. So make sure you check that out. Okay, I will continue on now. Moving along, as they say. In the Financial Times, kind of an old article from back in 2019, but it's like December 2019, so not that far ago. And I think it's time that we read it again. It's getting a new life, being shared around again, and I think it's time to contemplate it again. So Financial Times gives us how the lessons of lockdown will help disabled people at work, right? And basically it's an article about how remote work is showing businesses that they can be more inclusive without running their businesses poorly. And so that's what this article is about. I think it's time to reread. You may also want to be rethinking work for yourselves in this time, and this article talks about some of that in there. So we want to make sure that we're staying up on that stuff. Moving on, here we go. We are moving on to Forbes magazine. Great article in there. This one was really interesting, by Nancy Doyle. It's called Job Design for Neurotypes, Searching for That Elusive Match. And so what it's talking about is looking for your job based on your neurotype. Like, what jobs are better for autistics versus people with Tourette's versus people with OCD versus people with ADD, right? And thinking about that. And so she talks about the strengths of all of those things and why that makes some jobs good for us and other jobs not, and how sometimes even doing that can pigeonhole folks into types of jobs, the way that autistics have sort of been pigeonholed into like coding jobs, right? And stuff like that. So that's what this article talks about, and you can have a read of it here by Nancy Doyle right here in the description. Really good one. I liked it. Nancy Doyle, shout out to you. Brinksnews.com, another article. People with autism have the coping abilities to, I'm going to start again. People with autism have the cognitive abilities to excel in the future of work. And what an interesting piece that is. It's like a diametrically opposite article to Nancy Doyle. So it actually feeds directly into all of the stereotypes that we talk about in pigeonholing people. But it does at least commend us for our strengths. So take a look at that piece. Another one for you guys from ADD Magazine. This one is called ADHD Looks Different in Girls. And it does. We know it presents differently in girls, and for that reason, of course, many girls are missing their diagnosis until adulthood. So some of the things that she talks about in there is how for the most part, ADHD was considered to be a boy's problem, and we weren't really looking for girls, and that's one of the reasons that we're not getting diagnoses in it. The other reason is that girls present differently and actually handle their ADHD struggles differently than boys. So we really present differently. For example, girls with ADHD have a tendency to try harder to compensate for their ADHD and try harder to cover up their difference than boys do. Their struggle is usually more apparent, and they tend to be more vocal about it. Interesting. Or is it part of the ADHD brain and the gender, or is it really about how we treat gender in our society? One to think on right there for you. Something to look at. Good one out of the Thinking Person's Guide to Autism. John Elder Robison gives us a perspective from INFAR this year. And he talks about autism rights, ethics, and priorities in this piece, talking about really the autistic voice and getting the autistic voice in there to help kind of push these things along in a direction that the stakeholders are wanting it pushed in. And he really uses some brilliant metaphors comparing autistics to, for example, Jewish people and things like that, and talks about the ethics of misrepresentation, etc. So please have a look at John's article. As always with John's articles, it's very wordy, it's very deep, and it's very long, but worth the read because it's meaty, as I say. All right, good one. What's next? Okay, last one for us this week came out of ABC News in Australia. And it is an article calling for a greater and more diverse representation in everyday literature and pop culture. And that comes from Kay Kerr, who was diagnosed autistic after a very strenuous trip to New York City. And from that, she wrote the book, Please Don't Hug Me. So please check out Kay Kerr's book, but also the article, which is talking about how we need more representation of the diversity of the spectrum out here in the media. So, and I'm following that one up with a cute little one from the Mighty for a good little heartwarming story for before we go. On the topic of being in media, we have a new TV series coming out called On the Spectrum. And it will feature three, not one, not two, but three actually autistic actors playing autistic people. Yes, you guys, can you believe it? All right, so these three folks are going to be playing three roommates in their 20-somethings struggling out in the world, and will hopefully give us yet another version of what it's like to be on the spectrum. So looking forward to that. I'm a little bit excited about it, actually. It's one that I'm looking forward to for the first time in a while. What else do I have for you guys today in events? Webinars, podcasts, books, right? All those resources that I give to you every week. This week I've got a great podcast for you that's coming out starting July 1, and that is called Autism in Real Life. It is Ilya Walsh's podcast. She's going to be interviewing a whole bunch of people who are functioning about and with autism in real life now, today. So the professionals that are functioning in the autism world today, and autistics functioning in the autistic world today, and that kind of stuff. So I'm excited. She's going to have a lot of variety of different people on to talk about autism in real life. Proud to say that I am one of her first guests, so I will be on shortly to her podcast, but please go check it out. She's got a nice mix of people coming up, and I think it's going to be great. Congratulations, Ilya. I'm so happy for you. Yay for stepping out into something new, into a podcast, and I hope lots of people will go and listen. Shout out to you, Ilya. Congratulations on the podcast. Let's see, the Autism Awareness Center has shared a book with us, an interview with the author. Emily Lovegrove has just written a book called Autism, Bullying, and Me. And it's all about the real things you need to know about bullying. The real things that will help you through bullying issues. So please take a look at Emily Lovegrove's book, Autism, Bullying, and Me. I, of course, will link all these things in the bottom, like I always do. In the description. Then an article came out in Bitch Media this week. It was an interview with Janera Nierenberg. She is the author of the new book, Divergent Mind, Thriving in a World That's Not Built for You. Please take a look at this book. It looks amazing. I've already ordered it. I can't wait to read it. Shout out to you, Janera. This is an interview with her in Bitch Media, talking about her experience, talking about the book, and I definitely think it's one for us newsies to go out and grab. So please check that out in the description. Last up for you guys, we have my crap, right? I have my crap for you. I'm reminding you guys, as it's the last week in June, that the June Asking Spectrum Women is out, and you can have a watch of that, and also reminding you that I'm ready to record the next Asking Spectrum Women, rather. So if you have July questions for me for Asking Spectrum Women, please leave them in the comments where you're seeing this video. Email them to me at info@beccalaurie.com, or hop on over to my website, beccalaurie.com, and you will be able to go ahead and find it. So that's what I've got going on for you guys. Please let me know if you need scholarship seats to Unit 2. It is going to be going live August 5th. So again, Self-Defined Living, A Path to a Quality Autistic Life is my 3-unit virtual course that I am putting up online for you guys. Unit 1 came out live on June 10th. August 2nd is coming out live. Unit 2 is coming out live on August 5th. And then we will have Unit 3 in September. And so those are out right now. You can register for all of them. Packages are available. But if you need scholarship seats to Unit 2, please email me and let me know, because I do have scholarship seats available. If you're interested in sponsoring some scholarship seats, please head over to my sponsors page on my website and go ahead and become a sponsor. You can sponsor for Unit 2. I'm even willing to let you sponsor for Unit 3 at this point. I'd really like to get those classes filled with people who are struggling with financial hardship but are ready to make their lives thriving lives. That's it for me this week. Before I go though, remember you guys, I shared with you in the beginning, you are getting your very first sponsor interview right here at the end of Newsstand. So I'm going to get to work on splicing that in here. And instead of doing my closing with you here, I'm going to say to you, have an amazing weekend and go check out our sponsor interview with Cynthia Baseman. Thanks, you guys. Hey guys, welcome to my very first sponsor interview. So you guys know that I've been working really hard on Self-Defined Living a Path to a Quality Autistic Life and getting it out to you guys. And you know that I've been offering scholarship seats, and they don't come from the sky. They come from human beings for us. And so some of our bigger sponsors are going to be popping in at the end of Newsstand here and there to introduce themselves to you and as part of their sponsorship package. So here we go to our very first Unit 1 sponsor, Cynthia Baseman. Welcome, Cynthia. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsstand.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor.
Fantastic. Thank you. Well, let's get started with your interview. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm a California native, and I live literally a mile from where I was born. And I've traveled all over the world, and I've met all kinds of people, and I've always been interested in writing. I have journals going back from the time I was a little girl. And writing for me has always been a way for me to kind of decode the world, to try to recognize what's going on around me, to try to solve problems. And like everybody else, I've had my share, and to deal with trauma as well. So some of that work ended up in a book called Love Mom, A Mother's Journey from Loss to Hope. And I basically took those journal entries and took off to do sort of an exploration, try to reach catharsis, try to help other moms deal with the loss of a child. So that is something that I've written, and it was actually excerpted into a women's health anthology called Voices of the Women's Health Movement. And there's some really good chapters in there. I recommend that book for anyone. And of course, my book is for anyone that's suffered a loss. It doesn't really have to be the loss of a child. I've had letters from gentlemen who were in rehab that somehow found my book and found some life lessons in there that helped them cope with the loss of a lifestyle that they had to give up in order to be healthy again. So as you know, I've started writing some young adult novels, and they are unpublished. I'm working on getting them out there right now.
We all are getting them out there. We're trying.
Yeah. No. So that's my current thing. I'm really settled on the young adult genre, and the reason for that is I think that's when people really find a lot of who they are. They start to form some pretty strong opinions about the world when you are 16, 17. It's, you're pushing away from your family a little bit, or maybe a lot, pushing away from your parents, and you are deciding for yourself what is good for you, what is not good. And you're making a lot of mistakes, of course, and that's how you learn. So I'm totally intrigued with that age.
That's awesome. Well, let's talk about your connection to autism. We know that you've been working on YA books, and we'll talk a little bit further down about your YA book about autism with an autistic character. So what's your connection to autism? Why sponsor the course?
Well, I really fell in love with the women that I talked to who were on the spectrum. And I have to credit you, because you were very, very open and very vivid in telling the world about what your diagnosis meant to you. And I was completely swept up in that, and it just made me hungry to learn more and more and more about it. Now, I have a son who was diagnosed on the spectrum very young in life, and we had to decide, is that fit him? Does it not fit him? Do we want medication? Do we not want medication? And it was a very uncertain time for us. And so kind of seeing his life, his struggles, his pitfalls, his overcoming obstacles has been difficult as a mother sometimes to see and try to decide what's the best way to support somebody. And it's different at different ages. And, you know, being like a smother mother, Jewish mother that I am, you know, the instinct is to like get all over it, you know, put your paws all over it. And really through trial and error, I learned that's probably not the best thing to do. Going back to your story, in my research, I learned that what it looks like to be on the spectrum for a woman versus a man is so different. Yeah. And frankly, I really wanted to tell a girl story. I knew this was going to take place in high school. High school can be hell, no matter who you are. And when you're on the spectrum, it's like taking the conflict and just turning up the stove to 450 degrees. Yeah. And I was completely fascinated with that. And so that's what drew me further and further into it.
Yeah, awesome. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Mind Blown, which is the book that you wrote about with an autistic character, an autistic female character. I'm excited. But why a book? You know, tell us about the book and then why you chose to do that. I mean, you've shared a little bit about that, but why as a writer did you go down that path?
Well, you know, in the books I read and in the shows I watch and movies that I'm, you know, most attracted to, I really like strong characters who are deeply flawed, because I think it just speaks to reality. And I think sometimes fiction can really tap you into emotions in a way that, say, an article, you know, can't do. And I love the fish out of water. And so when Mind Blown came to me, it was really about finding this character who is in so much tumult, and how she figures out some of the pieces along the way, things that are important to her, things she realizes about friendships, relationships, her special projects that she cares about, and how she ends up inspiring a bunch of other people to do some really good stuff. And she's really the heroine. So the story, it takes place, it alternates chapters between a guy and a girl. And the guy is a fellow that's like an honor student. He's an athlete. He's the guy, the cool guy that everyone thinks is the nicest guy on campus and would love to be him or date him. And what they don't know is how hard he's working to deal with crippling anxiety. And he hasn't had too much trauma in his life. His nuclear family's together. His school comes fairly easily to him. So he doesn't even understand why he's feeling the way he feels. But he hides it. That's his instinct. And I think many people's instinct to hide it and pretend everything's okay. And it's only when he meets the girl, Ray, that he's never met anyone like her. He's totally intimidated in the beginning because she says pretty much whatever's on her mind. And she's very, very opinionated. And he is a little put off by it, but ultimately he comes around and is completely inspired by it. And it helps him deal with his own stuff that's going on. So in the beginning you think, oh, here's this guy, and he meets a girl on the spectrum, and they're in a life skills class, and he's an aide, and she's one of the kids with, you know, some learning issues and social, you know, issues. And you think he's going to be the one who helps her, but it quickly turns on that, and you don't know who's really helping who.
Right.
And then it becomes clear as you go along. So I don't want to like spoil
No, that's good teaser. Good teaser stuff. I'm excited. So, what was your biggest surprise when you were researching to get ready to write the book and you were looking into the autism community?
I think one of the biggest surprises was that how large the community is, and how many people are involved, and how many people have been diagnosed, and how many people are very likely undiagnosed walking around this world.
Yep.
That the scope of it was a surprise to me. Also, this shouldn't have come as a surprise to me, but you know, gee, not everybody's on the same page when it comes to autism.
Right. We've got some conflict in our community, right? People are shocked. Yeah.
Yeah. So the therapies and the modalities and the political side of it,
Right.
that is very much a hotbed of taste and opinion and research. And so I think when I stuck my little toe in there and I realized, wow, this is hot. I think that was a bit of surprise. And one more thing that I think was a huge surprise was just how incredibly helpful people were when I would call them, cold call, and ask them questions and ask them to read. Do you know how hard it is to get someone to read 400 pages?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty hard.
Yeah. And so that I got that kind of support from people in the autism community who did not know me.
Right.
You know, I that kind of generosity is just so wonderful, and I'm so grateful to people who open their hearts up. So
you did good, community. Good job, guys. Nice. All right. What was your most important takeaway from writing Mind Blown about the autistic character? What was your big takeaway?
My big takeaway is that the women that I've talked to, it's a constant honing, working, improving, self-acceptance of mistakes. It's a constant and huge part of their every single day life. This isn't just something that you think about like when you go, you know, every 6 months for a checkup or something. This is an everyday thing. And I think my takeaway is that these people are strong. The women that I talk to, and and of course the books, you know, many books that I've read, these are strong women. I think they have a really tough backbone, maybe more than your average person walking on the street. And I don't know if it's just getting, you know, a little beat up and broken down and then rising up stronger, or I couldn't tell you exactly why it is the way it is. But I think that was a big takeaway for me, was just literally the strength to keep going and trying to improve yourself all the time. You know, many people just have to pay a therapist to try and strive to do that. To me, this is more innate for a lot of the women I talk to. Yeah. So.
Yeah, we talk a lot about that when we discuss ourselves as a community. We talk about our resilience as a community, and we have this. We've been denied a lot of things over the course of history. We've been stigmatized, stereotyped, given wrong medications, all kinds of fun things. but still we rise, right? And it's kind of amazing. And our voice gets louder every time they knock us down. It's crazy. But yeah, it's amazing to see that you found that in your research while you were going about doing this thing. And I'm so glad you learned so much about the community. I know that it's important to us that people feel welcome when they come to learn about us. It's important to me that people feel welcome. We do everything we do to educate, and then when people do some of the things that you saw in your research and it gets very toxic and angry, it keeps people away, and that stops the education. So I'm glad to hear that you had a good experience. That's fantastic. Please tell people where they can find you and your books.
Well, I have a website, CynthiaBaseman.com, and I am on Instagram at Cynthia D. Baseman, and that's pretty much where you'll find me. And when this book is published, I will definitely have it available to purchase on the website, and you'll be able to find it, I'm sure, other outlets like Amazon and stuff like that. But the website's good because it has a placeholder for the books that haven't been published yet, and also has books that have been published on there. And you can see some of the blog posts and get a feel for my style and a little bit of my worldview, and that would be amazing.
Awesome. Well, go check out Cynthia's website. Check out her blog. She writes a really, really fun blog. So parents that are in my groups and things, go check out her fun blog. It's a parent blog and it's really cool. So go check that out. Autistics, if you want to read her YA book, start emailing her now. Get her to self-publish, or get her to go and chase down JKP and get her book out there. So let her know that you're interested. Let the publishers know that we're interested in more books, more media. We just talked about it in Newsstand. More representation in media. So do what you can to lend your voice to that. Everybody's doing it. Thanks so much for joining us, Cynthia. You guys have an amazing weekend. Go do something fun for me and tell me about it in the comments. I will see you guys next Tuesday on the live stream and next Friday for the next Newsstand. And I am out of here.